know how it had come about, but they each had been given a wish, so that they each could have one thing, whatever they liked. Well, the two eldest did not take long to think it over. They wished that every time they stuck their hands in their pockets, they would always take hold of money. For whenever you have as much money as you like, you'll always get your way in the world, they said. But the youngest, who was called Askeladd, or Ash Boy, knew how to wish for something better. He wished for all womankind to fall in love with him if they but saw him. And this, as you shall hear, was better than both goods and money. Now, when they had made their wishes, the two eldest brothers wanted to set out in the world. Well, then Askeladd asked if he could go with them, but they did not want that at all. Well, no matter where we go, we'll be welcomed as counts and princes, they said, but you miserable hungry wretch, nothing do you have and nothing you will get. Do you think anyone will trouble about you? But I certainly ought to be allowed to go with you all the same, said Askeladd. I dare say a bite of meat might just fall off for me too, as long as I was in the company of such high and mighty gentlemen as yourselves. Well, at long last he was allowed to go with them, if he would but be their servant. Otherwise, they would have nothing to do with him. Now when they had journeyed a day or so, they came to an inn. They put up there, the two who had money, and ordered both a roast and a fish, both spirits and honey mead, and all that was good. But Askeladd had to keep an eye on everything that belonged to the two brothers. As Askeladd sauntered back and forth out there in the yard, well, the innkeeper's wife happened to look out at the pane, and there she caught sight of him. She thought, well, she had never laid eyes on such a handsome young fellow before. She stared and she stared at him, and the longer she stared at the boy, the handsomer and handsomer she thought he was. "What in the devil's skins and bones are you standing over there by the window staring at, woman?" said her husband. "It'd be better if you saw about roasting the pig instead of hanging around by the window here. You see the kind and important folks we have with us tonight, I dare say?" "Oh, I don't care much about that pack of trash, I don't," said the wife. "If they want to come to stay, they can just go back to where they came from. But come here, and you'll see someone walking out in the yard. Such a handsome fellow. Well, I've never seen the likes of him in my life. And if it's the same to you, we'll ask him to come in and treat him to a little something to eat. For he certainly hasn't got much to pay with, such a poor but handsome thing." "Well, have you lost your few grains of sense you had, my wife?" said the man. He was so angry he fumed. "Quick, out to the kitchen with you, and fire up the hearth. And don't stand there gaping at strange men out the window, for crying out loud." Well, there was nothing else for the wife to do but go out in the kitchen and start fixing food. She was not allowed to look out the window at the boy, and she dared even less to give him something to eat. But just as she had put the roasting pig on the spit in the kitchen, she pretended to have an errand to run out in the yard. And so she gave Askeladd a pair of scissors, which were such that, if you had but to clip at the air with them, they clipped out the fanciest clothing anyone would wish to behold, of both silk and velvet and everything fine. "Where you're to have these because you're so handsome," said the wife. Now, when the two brothers had put an end to all the good things to eat, both baked and fried, they wanted to be on their way again, and Askeladd stood on behind the carriage and was their servant. Then they journeyed a long way until they came to another inn. Here, the brothers wanted to go in, but they did not want Askeladd, who had no money, inside with them. He was to stay outside again and keep an eye on all their belongings. "And if anyone asks whose servant you are, just say that we're two foreign princes," they proclaimed. But then it happened just like the first time. While Askeladd was lounging about in the yard, the innkeeper's wife came over to the window and caught one sight of him. And then she was just as smitten by him as the first innkeeper's wife. She stood and gazed at him, and could not get her fill of looking at him. Then her husband came rushing in through the room with something the two princes had demanded. "Don't stand there gaping like a cow at the barn door. Go out in the kitchen and fetch your fish kettle, woman," said the man. "You see the kind and important people we have with us here today." "Oh, I don't care about that pack of trash, I don't," said the wife. If they don't want what they get, they can just take what they had with them. But come here too, you'll see. Such a handsome soul, as one could see just there, out in the yard. Don't you see him? I've never seen such a handsome young boy on earth before. And if it's the same to you, we'll ask him to come in and treat him to a little something to eat. He looks like he needs it, the poor thing." "Oh, how truly handsome he is," said the woman. "You never did have much sense." "Oh, but what little you had is now flown away, I can tell," said the man. He was even angrier than the first innkeeper and drove the wife out to the kitchen. "Quick, out to the kitchen with you, and don't just stand there gaping at boys." Yeah. Well then, she had to go out to the kettle of fish, and she dared not give Askeladd anything to eat, for she was afraid of her husband. But all at once, as she stood fixing the fire, she pretended to have an errand out in the yard. And then she gave Askeladd a cloth that was such that you had just to flip it out and it served up the best things imaginable. If you just but to spread it out. "You're to have it because you're so handsome," she said to Askeladd. So now, when the two brothers had tasted everything there was to eat and drink, and paid for it through the nose, they set out on their way again and asked Askeladd to stand on behind.